Good afternoon. As a newcomer to this ecosystem, I am humbled by this forum of distinguished experts in scholarly publishing and communication. I respect expertise and will hopefully demonstrate as much through a resourceful delivery, painstakingly considerate of the average human attention span. I've been asked to speak because sometimes new and different can be insightful. My own worldview has been shaped by different dimensions and acronyms, all on a mission to disrupt the competitive advantages and big dreams of others. The ask, share my early observations, so please consider my remarks a modest perspective to be followed by an even more modest proposal from an outsider's view looking in. As an American, I consider myself an expert disruptor. It's sort of what we do. Americans respect disruption because it fixes stuff that ultimately breaks and progresses things along, even for those whose historical bias favors continuity, or at least used to. In our micro moment, today's disruption is digital. And if disruption spells progress, lots of progress is coming our way. Long-standing traditional centers of gravity are shifting rapidly. English language preeminence in knowledge dissemination will soon share a stage with China and any other funding sources serious about solving today's 21st century problems. And by that, I mean not just intellectually stimulating theoretical problems or dead ends or won't be solved for centuries problems, but today's real world problems, those perhaps less reputationally rewarding, but no less impactful. So how will disruptive forces play out in our ecosystem? Here's one newcomer's view. Technology will soon dissolve barriers across languages and cultures. In 2007, it cost $1 million to translate 1 million English words into Chinese. Today's cost is $30 for the same translation. Tomorrow's cost will be $0. Instantaneous translation will soon enable knowledge sharing across diverse borders and cultures. The good news, scholarship that crosses stubborn boundaries of language, culture, and discipline will improve outputs. Crossing boundaries fosters diversity of thought, which ironically is increasingly at risk in the 21st century. Cross-disciplinary collaborations that engineer scientific pursuits with explicit societal aspirations and impacts will further amplify the practical applicability and long-term viability of research. Crude definitions of quality will no longer hold up under the scrutiny and precision of 21st century technology. How we measure will matter. Looking at the total research output for 2016, for example, we know that by 2021, 20 to 40% of that output will remain uncited. Does that render 2016 a success or failure in terms of outcomes from investments made? Using a 20th century artifact to measure quality will not help us answer that question. Citations can be pragmatic for tracking iterative research, i.e., for those working on small fragments of big problems. But a multidisciplinary approach and new success criteria will be required for more practical problems, like this one, where only collaboration across diverse disciplines will drive a solution. Too many of today's real-world problems don't secure funding due to one-size-fits-all quality benchmarks. But technology will soon enable more impactful funding decisions. Funding has typically rewarded citations and those who have perfected the art of grant writing. To illustrate the current imbalance, look at funding for Alzheimer's research. One of those won't be solved for centuries problems. Someone in the world develops dementia every 3 seconds. Between 2014 and 2016, thousands of articles were published in the top journals, but right now, 50 million people are struggling to live with the disease. They and millions more who serve as their caregivers are in need of assistive technologies, technologies that might solve many small problems quickly, but which won't accrue citations. Out of the sum total, only 704 articles focused on technologies to help those living with the disease. Practical value and human impact are attributes of measurement and important success factors that will advance the higher human purpose science and technology are trying to serve, and not just the science itself. Many attributes, as I consider this, along the continuum of knowledge endowment, seem dated and very 20th century. More and more of our global youth are being left behind by schools that appear designed to enable 19th century factory work rather than the mitigation of rapid skills obsolescence, and by the growing challenge of accessing critical 21st century knowledge no longer on shelves. Knowledge and capabilities that would have otherwise secured a sustainable future. There will be real-world consequences if we fail to educate new generations with the competencies they need to participate and thrive in modern life. Even ignoring for a moment those not privileged enough to afford a higher education, recent studies from the U.S. indicate that despite 4 years of academic rigor in leading academic institutions, even privileged graduating students, aka future researchers, demonstrate little to no improvement in critical thinking and therefore don't become better problem solvers. Moreover, despite a massive investment and years of debt, 50% of employers say graduates, aka recent consumers of today's corpus of scholarly communication, aren't ready for the workplace, mostly due to poor critical reasoning skills and increasingly the absence of those very skills demanded by our modern world. Academic institutions are failing at a time when the collective imperative for learning has never been greater. Human knowledge now doubles every 13 months, soon to be every 12 hours. 90% of all data in the world was created just in the past 2 years. The total collective knowledge in circulation by 2020 will be 21 million times greater than all knowledge currently housed in all academic research libraries combined. Even in a fully open world, the human brain can absorb only a small fraction of that data set. As the supply of knowledge accelerates, so does the obsolescence rate on existing knowledge. 50% of a first year's college curriculum in the U.S. is obsolete by the time a student graduates. In the 21st century, the need to learn is no longer episodic, but continuous. Unless you're living off a trust fund or endowment, knowledge over centuries has served 2 human imperatives: professional advancement and economic sustainability. Increasingly, these goals are unattainable except for a privileged few. Why? Because academic institutions, with the complicity of publishers, are still largely supplying a 20th century product to a generation trying to successfully meet the requirements of 21st century demand. To those in academia considering the notion of relevancy, I humbly say, professional rewards and recognition for researchers, faculty, and the institution are important, but of even greater importance right now is impact. This impact. And this one. To my fellow publishing colleagues contemplating relevancy in an age of disruption, I say there is demand for designed knowledge artifacts that meet the needs of 21st century learners. And I don't mean these learners, but rather these for whom a higher education will be continuous. Learners who will build the 21st century economy. Those committed to addressing real-world problems and not just theories. Those passionate about collective health for both our planet and our people. Those striving for sustainable relevance irrespective of age or credentials. And those desperate need of an economic lifeline. Learners all over the world are asking for help. Let's not dismiss the proof or assume libraries will keep up with the fiscal demands of an exponentially growing corpus. The 21st century is our social century. As publishers, we have the opportunity to be listening directly and responding to 21st century knowledge demand which will sound very different from 20th century demand. Academic institutions are not adapting fast enough. Technology will enable publishers to become better digital listeners, and therefore better enablers, developers, and amplifiers of the knowledge most relevant to solving 21st century problems. There are 7.6 billion people in the world. 6 billion of them and counting have mobile phones, aka learning devices, aka no need for global travel or fancy academic settings or mastery of the English language or thousands of dollars in pursuit of too much information from the past and too little knowledge for the future. Today's generation of learners are tuned in. We just have to bring knowledge to them in the bite-sized nodes they are accustomed to. Whether researching knowledge or learning from it, the pursuit of its bounty is one connected continuum, a continuum that is collectively failing. We must all shoulder some blame. Open feels like a rallying cry from a generation no longer advancing and not understanding why. But open is also an expression of the collective failure of an entire ecosystem. So let's not allow ourselves to be casually defined, notwithstanding the importance or intent. Insufficient access to information is hardly our planet's most pressing collective problem. Free already exists in excess of what learners can practically find, access, comprehend, and derive tangible value from. Seeking relevancy in an age of technological and scientific disruption will necessitate applying a humanities filter to steer wisdom's higher purpose. Only by doing so will we continue to endow far more to the world in terms of meaningful human advancement. By becoming practical and perceptive listeners, technology will enable us to curate knowledge that is precisely the wisdom required for a new generation to advance, find relevancy, and sustain a respectable place in the modern world. I promised you a modest proposal. Here it is. As the world's preeminent knowledge suppliers, let's develop and advance 21st century knowledge artifacts with a better blend of science and humanities to solve our most pressing social problems. Collective health, which should include extending the quality of life and not just its duration. Sustainability through modern skills and competencies and not just theoretical knowledge for knowledge's sake. And finally, true knowledge democratization where any child born anywhere in the world in this century has the opportunity to self-serve with small but steady bites from the world's knowledge corpus to lift themselves up and out of a life of poverty and subjugation. For this next generation, let's open the on-ramp to every motivated knowledge seeker. Collectively, we can do this. 85% of jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. The pursuit of 21st century knowledge must never be for the privileged few. Isn't this what we signed up for? We can do better. Right now. Join us. Thank you.